Back to the NAL, everybody. Doa, Jesse, and Jacob here with you on the desk, and we're about to get into Soniqs versus Xset. It's two O2 teams, a bit of a rumble in the rubbish, as it were, but it's only been 1 week of play. Both teams still have a lot of opportunity to turn this thing around, but before we get there, let's talk a little bit about our results so far today. And oh boy, they have been pretty crazy. 2 upsets and then an anti-upset, a very expected result, huh?
Yeah, finally, and worth noting that the coin has been destroying us all day long, so...
We don't need to remind the people of what they already know.
They know.
It's just the depression that seeps into my brain, Jacob.
Oh, welcome to the desk this year.
At what point are we both getting replaced? Already.
There's only one coin,
I fear for my livelihood because of that thing. But no, you're not wrong. I think we do finally have one game that went the way we were hoping it was going to go. We used our logic and reason, and we deduced OXG was going to beat Beast Coast. I didn't think it was going to be by this margin, but the Battleground kind of determined that. And in both of the other cases, it's maps that we haven't seen until this stage for quite some time, and I'm liking that we're getting this kind of like new map introduction over again. Even if it doesn't result in what we think is going to happen, I still like that they're seeing play. And teams aren't just straight up avoiding it and going to defaults every time.
Yeah, so let's talk about Xset versus Soniqs. Yes, I reversed it, which confused me. Soniqs versus Xset. Again, both teams, but this is a really puzzling one, right? You've got Xset, right, which has this new roster, brand new roster. The organization was relegated at the end of last year, gets a new team, comes back, starts out 0-2 despite the fact that there are a lot of talented players on this roster, like objectively. And then you've got Soniqs, the reigning NAL champions, had a pretty good showing at SI, and then come in 0-2 early on, and everybody's confused, right? So this match, again, like I keep talking about question marks, but this match has another large amount of them surrounding it because of both teams, right? But I think the scary thing is that if you're the team that goes down 0-3, you know, you're kind of in a bad spot for having any sort of good result by the end of the stage.
Yeah, we're talking not quite yet. It might be a little bit early to say this, but we are looking at what happens for a major qualification.
It's concerning.
It is, and it's not to say that if you go down 0-3, you can't then pick yourself back out of the muck, because you still have nearly 20 points that you'll be able to get from all of the other games that we still have left to play. But it is a little bit concerning. I think for a team like Xset, there's not the expectation that they're probably going to go to wherever the major is in May. But for the Soniqs, having gone top 6 at SI, if they somehow were to miss it, they're going to look back at these first couple games and go, what the hell happened?
I mean, even if you go 6-3, right? I mean, you have to essentially win out.
Yeah.
And it's possible. It certainly is possible, but it's going to be tough. But a lot of that determines where we're going to go on our map for this match today. Let's find out what it's going to be. It's been chosen. Now we get to see what has been revealed. No border, though, first off.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is expected from the Soniqs. Jacob, you talked about how teams have been experimenting with the new maps. They don't just go to defaults, but we're playing the Soniqs, so they might just go to defaults. That tends to be what we've seen from them in the past.
Surprisingly,
Border
Cafe is
and
not
Theme
their
Park,
first ban,
both
though.
gone. Those are the two new maps that Soniqs have not played. They do like Skyscraper. At least they were willing to play it. They got kind of beat down on it, but every map so far
Why have they not banned Cafe yet?
Yeah, Cafe coming through should. That's definitely one that they have struggled. The other one is
usually their first. Okay, there.
Okay.
You scared me for a second. Jesus.
The other one I'd like to see them ban out is Villa, because they really struggled with SI at SI with it. Xset will do it for them. I'm shocked that they would go that way. Soniqs do like playing Villa. They'll do it often, but their poor performance at SI made me think that maybe they would take that out of the pool. Instead, it's Bank. So they're leaving Sky still up, and then otherwise, what, Oregon is the second one, Jacob?
God, that is such a trip. You got demolished on Sky, and you're going to allow Xset to maybe take you to it. It's Sky or Oregon. Does Xset want to go with the new map gamble and see if they can't do it again? No. That's just reliance on something that they can practice on. They've had way more time to look at a map like Oregon, especially with Bodega coming in and theorizing how they'd be able to get a good team. But still, you remember back when the Soniqs were king on this map? It's not that they're not still good on it. I'd say their performance, especially with SI results, has been average. But harken back to stage 1 of last year of the NAL, they trashed everyone on this map back when they were just starting to come into their own, when no one had expectations. They did great, and they've never really dropped it in the NAL to a certain extent. So Xset going here is a weird pick.
I think for Xset fans, this map kind of has a dirty allure to it. It's very much one that has been troubling for Xset in the past. The last time they were here, 8-7 to Parabellum Map 3 of Relegations.
Oh,
the game that sent them out of the league. Of course, they're back.
Well,
and yeah.
Totally different team.
Totally different roster,
True,
but for fans
but
and for the legacy.
Does anyone from Xset the org have Vietnam flashbacks right now? Marco, I'm sorry, but
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's that we have to separate the histories of the org versus the histories of the squad of players.
do.
I think
Absolutely.
that's a really important thing to think about here. Where sure, Xset the org might have those kind of like scary flashbacks thinking about that map, but this group of players may not come from quite the same place. They certainly saw what happens. You know, one of them saw it from the other side, in fact, but you know, they don't carry that baggage as a group, I think, into this one. So
no,
we'll
but they still are searching for their first win, which is
certainly are.
still something that like you want to dig yourself out of the gutter
there is
after
a
coming back
specter
in.
hanging over them for sure.
Exactly. However, I'll still stand by what I said from before. Xset have a damn tough schedule to get through for these first 3 games. We concluded it was probably harsher for Mirage, as we saw later, but Xset still have to get themselves out of the trenches of 3 very difficult matchups. And if you can win this game, great, because the Soniqs very clearly seem like they're at a disadvantage they shouldn't have been in. But when's that finally going to run out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you talk about that tough schedule too, and you know, arguably when you first look at this before the season began, you would say, "Oh, Soniqs, that's going to be a tough game for them." Well, maybe not so much anymore. But let's talk a little bit more about Soniqs as well. I mean, this is a team, again, we've said it to death, right? They won NAL. They've got a strong roster. They've got a really hyper-intelligent in-game leader in Super, but they have just not been able to put that together.
Yeah, I think for the Soniqs, I mean, things have been tough because, like, you look at this first week, and obviously it was rough there, but the actual trend of Soniqs goes a little bit beyond that. Currently on a 6-map losing streak. When you look at SI as well, because they lost 2-0 to FaZe in the lower bracket, and then reverse swept by Empire in the upper bracket.
Yeah, the Empire game.
So that's 6 maps in a row that Soniqs have not been able to lock down a win on. They really would like to find something here against Xset. You'd expect this to be the team that they can take down. I think the biggest thing that people have been talking about, and we even touched on it in the pre-show, was the pacing for this team. Their takes have just been either way too fast or way too slow, and even on the roam, it feels like there are times where these roamers are coming in, but they're just coming in at the wrong time entirely.
Yeah, I think we Super being a phenomenal IGL has never really been in doubt, except for this season so far. It doesn't feel like the adaptation is there, which they're usually very fair on, like mid-round whenever they realize the first take didn't work. The second attempt is a good try, but nothing has been a good try so far for this team. Again, they've only won 4 rounds over 2 games, which that stat in and of itself is already a cause for concern. But against Parabellum, like you mentioned, they tried 2 rush strats. Both of them were abysmal failures, and when they tried to take their time against Parabellum on a map they were comfortable with, it still seemed like it was the same result.
And like, you take a look at some of these rounds as well, like against Astralis, they just had some pushes where players were completely out of position. There's one where they're attacking on like the top floor, and they have 3 players with a sledge trying to protect him as he's trying to nade upwards. But then like they're there until 10 seconds, 15 seconds left in the round, and they got to rotate back up. And it's like, these are the things that, like, in theory, your IGL should be calling your players, okay, well, we need everybody back on the top floor. We need people focusing on site, but that's just not happening. And whether that is an IGL problem or whether that's a team problem with cohesion and listening to Super, impossible to say, but certainly something's not going right.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, too, as we take a look at the stats for the Soniqs team here in a moment, I'm new here, again, still. But when I watch the Soniqs play, I almost sense a little bit of desperation in the way they're playing. They're shifting strategies drastically. There's clearly a little bit of, I'm not sure if it's miscommunication or hesitation on some of the execution, it seems like, if you look at the map movement. And I almost wonder if they're getting in their own heads a little bit too much. And maybe they don't need to do that, right? They're a strong team, you know, maybe at the end of the day, you just sort of like execute, rely on yourselves, and not overthink it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like that mentality can absolutely factor into it, and that can lead to the scoreboard as we're seeing now, the numbers. 39% opening kills, that's one of the worst in the league from week 1. Only Dark Zero had a worse number than that. Low sample size because of that low opening kill stat, but 29% conversion is really bad. You want that to be around 2/3. 29 is terrible. Then you look at attack and defense. 17% defensive win rate is almost unheard ofly bad, and 25 attack. Only one team in the league is lower stat than that, and of course they're across the stage right now. Xset, the other team there. But I want to stress, it's 2 games in. Of course, stats are going to be exaggerated because we have such a low sample size, but still these numbers are concerning.
If you want something positive to talk about, there are 2 things I like. First, Yeti's roam game, still as crazy as ever. He's going to put himself in a position that he knows somebody is not going to drone, and then he'll sit there for however long it takes to pull off the world's latest flank. That is still a constant, and Yeti still does really good at that, and he was doing it in that Parabellum game even though they lost. And the other thing is the way they attack. The idea is prioritizing as many people alive as possible and then pushing toward the site, which again, they also still do really well. So if those two things hold true, which they have so far, there's at least a basis that the Sonics can work from. It's not all doom and gloom in spite of what their record might suggest right now, but still, you got something to work from, which is probably the most important thing for a team struggling this hard.
We've been kind of applying like certain words to each team, I guess. And I guess the word I'd apply to Sonics going into this one is concern. We're not panicked yet.
Mine would
We're
be,
not,
huh?
It's not over. Yeah, that's another
word.
good one. That's another good one. The concern, right? And that concern is going to be maybe exemplified if they end up taking the L today. We'll see. But their opponents on the other side, another team that's been struggling a bit, it's going to be Xset. You've got some imports. You've got a coach coming up from Brazil. You've got some players coming up from Brazil. One from the U.S. and one from Canada, I believe, is the other way that breaks down. And again, a lot of individual power on this roster, but the glue that holds them together in the map, it just has not seemed to firm up yet.
Yeah, I mean, I just touched on it when we looked at the Sonic stats, but 20% attacking rate is the worst in the league for Xset. That's worse than old Xset, to be clear, who had a 44% attacking win rate, which was also the worst in the league at the time. Again, low sample size, I'm sure it'll bounce back, but still shows how strange and weak their opening couple of games were. It felt like the timing was really bad. Everybody remembers that one round where Diaz is in the middle of sight on Chalet and Kino is still outside the building in the 2v2. That was probably like the most egregious example of how they're just kind of disconnected, which is what you were talking about, Doa. I actually did like, if we can like highlight a positive for Xset, I liked how after that round happened, Bodega called attack timeout and talked to his players, and they really seemed to sharpen up and fix that. They didn't win the game, but like I did see improvements coming in after that. So although Xset certainly have a little bit of that problem, maybe playing a little too individual, a little too excited when they're in that push, I appreciate a coaching staff that can rein in players, that can control the team, as Bodega seems to be able to do, and can transition into a couple of round wins for the team.
Yeah, but the problem is still their executes. I'm going to keep on harping on this point until they do something to shore it up. It's pretty bad right now. I think their first 3 attacks from that game all had glaring execute problems. It was you'll get even trades on a roam, you'll be ambitious and aggressive in the first minute and 30 to 2 minutes, and then suddenly everything falls apart and Achieved is just going to win 1vx's against you every day of the week. Sometimes you'll lose crucial attackers early, and then everyone seems like they just get confused and don't know how to finish a round. When they're on defense, it's a little bit different. Sometimes setups are a little default, but they still have a way to at the very least finish it and be crazy explosive and unexpected, but not when they're on attack, which is still the thing we need answers on.
Yeah, and I think that like even going back to the SSG game real quick, when they were like failing to make attacks work, they just gave up and they went for like Ying plays and they went for really gimmicky strats that I wasn't liking.
That's a crutch you can't always rely on.
No.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, we can always rely on our casters to give us wonderful predictions. We've got 2 new ones over there waiting to try their hand, to try to pick the winner of this particular match. It's going to be Blue and Stokes. How are you both doing today?
Doing pretty good, and excited to get ready for this matchup here. I think it's going to be quite an interesting one, as both teams obviously have been struggling quite a bit as of last week's games leading into this one, so it's going to be a nice test of mettle for both of those to see who can come out on top when they've had a little bit of a rough patch over these past few Playdays.
Yeah, so what's it going to be, huh? Who is it going to be? Soniqs? Xset? This is a tough one to pick, honestly. Like, this is a challenging one.
I'll leave it up to you, Stokes. You get the first pick for this time.
Oh, man, why's he got to put all this pressure on?
Go first.
You see all this pressure right now, guys? You know what? I don't like how the Sonics have been playing these last, well, at least this last week for the last 2 Playdays. I'm going to go with Xset. I think anything's possible, especially when Doa's flipping that coin, so we'll see what happens.
We still have to destroy the coin at some point here. This pick rate is ridiculous. But yeah, I'm going to echo the same thoughts there at Xset taking this one. I think that I'm a little bit less confident in it now that Sonics have gone to, in my opinion, a pretty good map choice for them on Oregon. But overall, I feel like Xset might just be able to sneak this one out.
All right, so we got 2 for Xset. I'm a little bit surprised, actually. I thought someone was going to say Soniqs is going to bring it around again. That apparently is not the case yet for our casters. We'll check back in with the 2 of you in just a moment here. But now, my analysts, Jesse, Jacob, bold enough to make a choice?
Yeah. I'm actually going to go with exactly what you were kind of hoping somebody would say. I'll still pick the Sonics. I think you'd think that this hole that they're in is insurmountable, but I still think the Sonics as a core have had enough time together to figure out what their damn problem is. After 2 games, and Xset are still kind of fledgling in that regard. So I'll give it to SQ. And real quick, chat, can I please get a nice in chat for the coins prediction record? Thank you.
No.
That's all.
No.
I appreciate it.
You had to, didn't you?
Thank you very much.
Chunk of metal.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll go Sonics as well. I feel like they are the better team, and sure, 1 week didn't look great, but it's 1 week. not going to change my position off of 1 week.
Off weeks do exist. I hate using that as a crutch term, but I think that's kind of what happened with them last
You know,
week.
I think this is the first time we've had the desk and the casting desk split on this. The analysts both go Soniqs. The casters both go Xset. We have to have the decider now, and I have the decider right here. Not that it actually decides the result. I'm just saying it decides who picks more, right? Who gets more
I'm curious
choices,
about this
right?
one because
That's it.
usually the desk goes like completely in one direction,
Right.
and then the coin can play wild card.
We'll see
But
what happens, I guess. I mean, well, we're going to go heads Soniqs. We're going to go tails Xset. Let's go ahead and flip it. Ooh, it is heads. Heads for Soniqs. The coin, appropriately perhaps, agrees with the desk. It is on the desk as well, and in a physical sense anyway. And so there you have it. All
It's
right,
us
we got
versus
our
the casters now.
I guess, apparently. Well, we got our predictions in, and you have a poll to go and think about. Let's check out that poll question to see what you have to mull over as we get ready for this match. It's going to be neither team has any points on the board so far, obviously. Who will stay on the bottom of the standings? Ooh, that is a harsh one. I mean, I guess out there
When you
you're
put it
predicting
that
the match
way,
as
it's
well.
way harder.
Yeah.
Oh,
Who do you
no.
go with? I honestly think this is a really difficult one. There's a lot of reasons to pick both sides. Nobody's wrong. Everybody's right. But in the end, somebody's going to be wrong and somebody's going to be right. That's just how it's going to be. But we're not going to have to wait anymore to see the map. It's time to get things started. We're going to send it over right now to our two casters. Blue, Stokes, take it away.
All right, thank you very much. And it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to get into one of our final matchups of the day here. The Soniqs about to go up against Xset. And what an interesting clash it's bound to be for the Soniqs and for Xset as well. Xset, of course, a new team, so struggles are somewhat expected as they piece themselves together. But this is the Soniqs who just placed top 4 at the World Championships at SI itself. We expect more from them. We're going to have to hope now that last week was just a bit of a drift off into different map territory. Now they return to places like Oregon, where we've seen them excel in the past. They will have better results. We'll have to wait and see, of course, if that is going to be true. Stokes, let's get your thoughts on this as we prepare to jump into the map.
Man, it's going to be such a back and forth. I think this is really up to the Soniqs as to whether they're going to win this or not. You know, ball's in their court. Last week was definitely not their best showing, and as they said on the desk, I don't like to give people the benefit of the doubt of, oh, you know, well, it's just going to be a bad week, right? I think coming into this, they have a lot to prove. I think, if anything, this is going to be the tell of the tale of what's going to happen to the Soniqs going forward. Can they beat Xset, especially a revitalized Xset, when they don't have nearly as much tape on them?
Absolutely the case. And some people might be thinking that, okay, you know, the Soniqs changing coach, maybe that had something to do with it. Jerobro no longer sitting behind the team might have made a big deal. But if anybody caught that clip from, I believe it was like a podcast or something like that with Marmalade involved in it, Marmalade said that actually that's not necessarily the case, and that Goddess has been fulfilling basically that role for quite a long time now, and pretty much the entire formation of this roster's history. So not a lot has changed in that department. That leaves us wondering what exactly is the issue right now with the Soniqs, and we're going to be finding out if they've been able to fix it, ladies and gentlemen, as we're going live with their map here. We go into Oregon now between these two Titan teams, and we'll see who can come out on top of it.
All right, well, jumping into the ban phase now, and Soniqs will have the first ban. So what's being removed from Oregon? That's a big question here, especially with the Soniqs' recent results from this map. Not looking too hot, at least when it comes to the SI results. So it's going to be the Thatcher ban being removed from Soniqs. A very plain Jane to start us off here, but does Xset have anything in the cards?
That'll be the question we'll be getting an answer to in just a second here, as Xset's first ban will be, and their final attacker ban, of course, is going to knock out Ying. Pretty much perfect sense for an Oregon game. We've seen her be almost a necessary choice for basement attacks specifically, but a few other areas as well. She's become a choice operator to bring in, so makes perfect sense, especially against our friends from the Soniqs. Meanwhile, I'll get Xset's last ban out. This one also aligning pretty well with what we've come to expect here on Oregon. Wamai can be a very powerful piece of utility for mitigating grenades of all types, so we'll get rid of him.
I really like this ban set so far, especially from the Xset side. We'll see what the defensive ban is for the Soniqs, but for Xset, especially starting on the offensive side, removing the Ging if they don't usually play with that, it's going to be a really solid ban. We'll get to that one in a minute, John, but Wamai going to be removed as well. I love that, not only because you could be playing something like Capitao or something like that into that, but you'd also force their hand and force them to a play kind of like an Aruni or Jaeger setup. But speaking of Jaeger, he's gotten banned out too, and now this leads us to the point where we have to have a pretty serious discussion. And this discussion is mostly focused around throwables, and those throwables mostly being frag grenades. Frag grenades are going to mean so very much inside of this game that we are about to watch. The only preventable utility that the Sonics can possibly bring to the table is what Rexen is bringing right now, these laser gates. Any of those are going to be hopefully the saving grace for the Sonics, but Xset, if, well, any pro team being in this position is more than likely going to bring a very large abundance of throwables.
We can already see a good amount of, I believe, 6 currently in the lineup for this team as they're about to spawn out in a few seconds. Or keep in mind, of course, we've got attacker repick, so the possibility that we'd see them switch this up, but given the fact that Sonics plays into a fairly default basement hold here, more than likely, Xset's already got a good read on this and shouldn't need to make too much use of attacker repick for this site or probably a few of the other ones as well. You will notice an interesting pick on Sonic's operator side that we didn't talk too much about. Obviously, that's going to be Yeti bringing in the Thorn into the fold for this one. And then, of course, as you had mentioned earlier, Rexen being forced now to go over to the Aruni as they have no other forms of mitigation due to that little bit of a self-handicap they put on themselves by banning out Jaeger.
6 frag grenades. That's what Xset are bringing, along with 6 stuns as well, but that'll be only on Kino and DS Lucas. So we'll see what Xset can possibly get done here, but they have quite a bit of utility to be able to clear out this map, especially with DS on the Lion. So should be pretty simple beginnings here as they get out and onto the map to simply clear things out, get these hatches going, and then we'll be on to the execute for the site where things will actually be a little bit more exciting. Could have some actual interesting stuff going on earlier, though, here, depending on what Yeti wants to do with this freezer hold.
Yep, Yeti going to be able to support his position more than likely with those pieces of utility, and will continue to bait this down. No real action being thrust upon him or any of the members of the Sonics roster just yet, though. Like I said before, this team plays an incredibly straightforward default inside of the basement, only playing almost entirely into just that basement floor, so Xset has a lot of free time here at the beginning of the round to open up all these hatches, potentially clear routes, and find, more importantly, the easiest path forward, whether that's going to be a freezer and some other angle split, laundry push, or just the usual back stairs drop that we often see teams go for quite often. Away from that, though.
All this is going to be pretty simplistic going forward for Xset. Just simply get the hatches open. They don't even have to worry about a Kaid. It's all just going to be gunfights past this moment. But it is just a waiting game here for Kino.
And Kino, thankfully the wait is over. He can now start peering into this hatch here and see if anything is going to peer back from below. Thankfully not the case this early on in the round here. Sonics continuing to play into that passive setup they have for themselves, and Yeti actually backing up from the freezer room entirely as Xset do not seem to be pressuring it too heavily at this point in the round. It does seem as though Xset's going to go pretty much for that straightforward drop in through the electrical hatch and using backstairs as well. Rexen to realize this, so he'll back away from the pillar. Pressure's going to boil up to be a little bit too much for him to deal with, and that nade was rapidly approaching his corner, so we had to get rid of that one as well. Going to be able to take out a few more drones here. Xset still with a healthy number of those, by the way, even with the 2 just being deleted there. 6 available. Another nade down against Rexen. Keep in mind before, there's no way for Yeti to mitigate this utility, and finally Rexen is pushed into a bit of a rough corner there as he's taken down first. Grixer, though, immediately exchanges that back out and puts us into a 4v4 as both teams hold even here. And with only 45 seconds left, the pressure's going to start to boil a bit onto Xset to get themselves into the basement.
It's on both ends. Super still has some toxic babes to be able to commit to this situation. Kino with the case currently standing on the back towers as well. So looking to see if they can possibly get this engagement to go off around the pillars area, but there's just so many holes to deal with. It's going to be a trade back and forth as Xset surge forward into the actual site, but steadfast as Sonics at the moment here. They need to get this plant down, but they haven't found the space just yet. Yaga's still looking for a kill as he'll move over towards E-Box. Has one inside the freezer hallway as well, but now trying to transfer back over in towards the actual square space. Kino starts to plant right inside of E-Box, but it's a swing from Yeti, who was not found earlier, but it's Xset to actually find all of the kills. Yeti can't complete his, and now Xset actually find the first round.
Xset getting the job done, and just in time as well, really struggling to get any sort of player presence inside of the basement itself. We saw those first 2 fights basically boiling down to a 1-for-1 into their favor, though, ultimately, as they are able to eventually get that back stair control and use the positioning to trade their way into the site, taking control of the first round away from the Sonics here. And it's that little bit of extra gunpowder presence that we're seeing from Xset that I think is going to potentially make up the difference here today. We'll have to see, though, how the rest of these rounds go, as that's only the first strike for the Sonics, and they're heading right back down into the basement. Call that last round a bit of a fluke here, and hoping that they can go for a quick retry to put that first point on the board.
And we'll have to see. They are going to have a switch up in the likes of Yeti. We'll bring Warden in to see if that can possibly do anything inside of this. But, I mean, just looking at it from a raw perspective from the last round, I don't really see what Warden does for this situation. The Ying's banned out here. No one's really going for a smoke plant. I mean, it
wasn't really a lot of flashes in the last round.
Exactly. And most of these flashes flashes are going to be used to try and burn out gates because you want those frag grenades to land. So, I mean, I don't really know what the Sonics are going for in this instance. It could be as simple as, hey, I wanted a 1.5 so I can fight at range. We really don't know.
He might just be playing for that like stair position where there's probably a bigger likelihood he might get flashed, or one of those 3 gets dumped potentially onto him. I think they're bringing 3. No, they're actually 6 because they do have them on the line as well. So possibility that maybe he gets engaged on the ladder, or even an area like this too, and he can use it there. But I agree with you completely. Once he gets down to the basement, the ability is going to be pretty useless.
We'll have to see how it goes. It just looks like it might be used for some early peaks. So 1.5 sight especially just makes longer range gunfights easier for you. I know we harp on it all the time, but it really does mean a lot coming from the defensive end if you're able to fight back up against the offense. And speaking of them, they're now into the building and clearing things out. Not too much of a Sonics force around this area, so it's going to be as simple as getting the hatches open yet again, starting to focus on this build-up towards their execution. Going to try and clear out Freezer. Gomez will be on duty, so get rid of the deployable cam and start dealing with the bodies in Freezer.
Gonna watch that corner there just in case someone from the Sonics wanted to go for a quick hop-up. Not to be seen, though, inside of this round. Sonics continue to have free clearance over both the first and second floor, due to the Sonics also choosing not to put any additional presence inside of areas like security, where we sometimes see players hanging out for that first minute or so of the round. Once again, playing it entirely into this default, into the bunker downstairs itself, and that leaves our play into the hands of Xset. They have to make the first move here. They have to be the one to strike and try to open up these hatches, which Kino obviously is working on right now, as they'll pop open E for themselves and start looking at other options past that. Look like he's going to work his way over here just to do another quick pop of the freezer hatch. And now Xset can start investigating with their drones and look for another path downstairs, whether it's going to be just a rerun of the previous round or maybe adding a new facet to it if they want to try to push from freezer or another avenue.
Yeah, it's a bunker setup inside of bunker. Not a single roamer as Sonics tries to play this close to the chest and make sure that they don't give Xset too much of a rope to be able to take this round. Might have an engagement on the back stairs here as Rexon steps up to the plate. No damage back and forth on either one of these members, though, as this timer continues to dwindle.
Rexon continuing to hold this back as time still sits aplenty here for the Xset roster, so they're making good progress on being able to force the envelope and get themselves into the site with a good amount of time remaining in the bank here, but they're still being cautious, making sure to use as much of it as possible so they don't mess anything up here or miss any tricky positions from the Sonics rosters. They're set up just as easily to prevent this. In comes the nade flashes. So we're going to see Xset dump pretty much everything in order to get backstairs access, and it'll work out. They'll be able to work their way in. Nitro up from Yeti, but pretty sure it gets shot, so no impact being made upon our attackers at this point in the round here. Xset have now frozen, despite the fact that they have back control. Sonics have backed away from that fight entirely and are choosing to prioritize just long-range duels here, with another counter coming in towards the freezer side. Perfectly played up until Kino gets in the action, though. He finds a double to start Xset off well and push them deeper into the site. Gomez looking to pull off something similar, but he as well is going to be stuck inside of E for the time being. He doesn't want to fully commit to that just yet. Yaga, though, will get the job done for him. Clears out his teammates' rough position there, knocking down Grixer, and now potentially opening up a plant opportunity for Kino. Super starts the wrap out through a construction tunnel. Yeti's going to push in from the side as well. This could be big from him, but no. The diffuser goes down onto the ground. Yeti completes the wrap, however, and he's got another teammate still pushing back in from the other side, so very, very quickly, Xset will lose their positions. Not all of them, however. Yaga stays in the fight, brings it down to a 1v1 between him and Super, and Super is already low, so it's an easy shutdown for Yaga and an easy closeout for Xset as they take a second basement attack in a row.
Fantastic round there for Xset. Not only do they focus on making sure that the Sonics are all forced back into the site, but also they set up that ace in the hole Yaga inside of Freezer. They get the security hatch open and he simply waits for the proper moment. We have a huge double kill happen from one of the Xset members and Yaga immediately takes space inside of Freezer. They had no idea that counter angle existed at all. He ends up getting the kill not only on the player inside of the actual stock space, but he's also able to hold things down for the post plant. It's exactly what you want out of your player inside of that position. Very well done from Yog, and what a call from Xset.
So it's 2 in a row for Xset in the basement site. Sonics definitely feeling like they might have changed up their fate a little bit at the start of that fight, but unable to carry it forward. They're finally going to shift away from that and head upstairs here. And that means some operator changes are coming into the fold for our defensive lineup. Most notably, we are going to have the Thunderbird coming out for Grixer, enables a little bit more aggressive presence inside of the early round, and even fighting for the site in that final minute or so is going to potentially boost some of these anchor positions. Alongside that, we get the Mute Mozzie combo to try and deny as much intel as possible, and Rexon's got a nice comfort pick coming on there as well with the Alibi.
Love the Alibi pick coming in here, especially just for that extra little, sprinkle of information that could possibly come through from those Prismas. But either way, I like Sonic's strategy strategy here, and I think it's something that we probably should have seen in the last round. They need to get into these engagements and take these fights to Xset. If you're going to sit here and just let them set up for their execute, it's more than likely going to go off with a hitch every single time, or without a hitch, rather, every single time, because Xset doesn't have to worry about any of these preventable utilities being played by the defense. So it just makes it super difficult in that aspect, especially when it comes to those low times. But for Soniqs now, especially with the Thunderbird pick coming in, I'm assuming that we're more than likely going to see some more aggressive engagements from them, but we'll have to see. As for Xset, they're already entering the building, especially for Yaga's sake, as he's taking control of Armory.
Yeah, they're going to notice zero presence over here by the main stairs side of the second floor, so they'll swoop right in. Yaga will take it in a moment. It wouldn't surprise me if Kino goes in to take bedroom and walk-in closet control. Also, I'm not sure. We should have a mute jammer or something like that on the other side of this wall, so there is a possibility that gets held up for a second or two. We will have to wait and see how our attackers will look to deal with that, as there's a bit of presence under it, so you're not going to be able to just waltz right in, take it out from down below so easily. There's a couple members of the Soniqs that are going to be trying to delay it. I say that, but they don't seem to struggle with it too much, as they just chuck in a nade in order to deal with that through the window upstairs. So that's going to be able to knock that out, open up room for these X-Kairos to be deployed by the attackers, and now Xset have a window to work their way in from walk-in.
Oh, such a plain Jane execute here from Xset, as they'll work the Master Wall and also have Maverick, you guessed it, in Big Tower working the attic as well. So we'll see if the Soniqs can deal with this more default-esque strategy from Xset. Is Super not the first one to get taken down this time? It's instead Yaga, as Kansan finds one, Kino will find another, and it's going to be a trade back and forth as the Soniqs, they're ready to stand and bang. They'll swing into Trophy, be able to trade out as they'll take the lead.
Kino with an unfortunate misread there, as he does not expect the second player to push him after he trades out the first. Ends up dying as a result of that. Nades go in. That should have taken out both of the Kona stations, but it's going to do relatively minimal damage to any of our defenders here at this point in the round. So Gomez will be able to surge himself forward, establish a big window position, and start to punish anybody that might still be present from that. There was a player here a second ago, but they've rotated around into the main dorm, so no longer going to be the case. Soniqs are continuing to hold with the 4 players they have left. They're going to work this 1-player advantage down to the bitter end of this timer and try to look for an easy closeout here on round number 3 to finally put themselves on the board. One Kona station is still alive inside of those main dorms, and it'll be used by Rexon in the event he's thrusted into a fight at any point here, which could be arriving quite soon, with Diaz now having upstairs attic control. Rexon is going to get pushed by Spirits in the meanwhile from a completely different part of the map. He'll be able to move in. He's got control of the big dorms now as a result of that one. Super nearly getting put into a bad spot with this really awkward nade positioning here, but he's able to weasel his way out of that one. And Gomez strikes true again. Now the advantage has been flipped, and Xset's taking it for themselves. Super leaps up from the inside of Arsenal, is going to be able to grab 1 kill for himself, but again, immediately exchanged by Spirits, who ethereally raids into the last frag as well. Beautiful job from Xset as they're shutting down this map right now. 3-0 over the Soniqs.
Man, that round with Soniqs every single day of the week. They have the case down inside of Trophy. They have the man advantage, but Xset still win it out here. And honestly, Super just not managing the main stairs in any great capacity. I mean, you just allow Finka to walk up and ice your teammate inside a Trophy. If you're playing that area, you're supposed to hold on to that stairwell and not allow that to happen. But, I mean, for the Soniqs, they just can't buy around, it seems, nowadays. Even when things are all going so right, it just takes one little bit of straw to make it all go so very wrong.
So without, for the time being, any other new ideas to be brought to bear, Soniqs just going to go for the repeat here. Once again, call that as like, okay guys, you made a few like critical blunders there, like you were saying, Super's position not being watched over the best way it could have potentially been, and a few other things getting slipped up. They'll try this one more time and see if, once again, second time will end up yielding them results on their upstairs hold. If not, there's a big question of what the heck do the Soniqs try to go from here, or where do they try to go from here, as now they will have lost 2 in a row on both that basement and the second floor site, and that would potentially just force them to try to play like maybe a first floor hold, or they got to go back to basement. Like,
man,
it's a tough ask at that point if Soniqs don't quickly correct here.
I mean, what do you do past that? Because arguably the other 2
Take a
sites,
pause. The first thing you do.
right? I mean, either of the kitchen sites that you go to in this scenario, you're more than likely just going to get blasted to the sky because you don't have the utility to be able to hold those down in any meaningful way either. So it just makes it to where things are so unbelievably difficult for you in the moment if you're not able to win these engagements. And unfortunately, you know, the last round, Soniqs actually do win the engagements. They stack and trade out properly, and it still doesn't go their way just because of what we saw inside the last minute. Xset are just allowed to swing all of these angles and take gunfights where they really shouldn't be winning out. They should be trading evenly, which would mean that Soniqs get the round, but unfortunately we don't have that. Going into round 4 now, though, as John had said previously, we're back on the top floor defense. Xset already with some deep drone coverage inside. The Bulletproof will be able to take care of that as they'll get picked up from the Sonic defense, but it'll at least give them some semblance of info on what is to come.
That nade, I guess, didn't end up getting thrown or didn't make its way through, but either way, there we go. It's going to go through this time. Spirit's never threw it, I guess, because he still has one remaining. That will once again deal with the Mute Jammer and open things up towards walk-in for these guys to play with. And we've got, wow, that's a big lord coming in from Super all the way down in the basement. Very curious to see what this could potentially bring, as he did play a similar aggressive positioning on the retake for the last round. If he worked his way up, if he's going to end up working his way up through laundry stairs up to main. So we'll have to wait and see what he can potentially do here. As at the moment, I don't believe Xset will be aware of this. They're going to be a little oblivious as they try to open up the same path as last round.
I love this because it forces good communication out of the offense, and they really need to be on their drone game here. Grixer, he's going to take so much heat as he wildly swings into Trophy.
He's still alive.
Now on 10 HP. Doesn't have the ability to actually get healed back up either. No Thunderbird inside of this lineup, so singular bullets worth of HP away from death at the moment. Minute and 10 seconds now as Xset still trying to set things up for this execute. They've wrapped Gomez over to the attic window here. DS is torched to the line in the bottom of the attic wall as well, and Super still waiting for this flank to go off. DS has the opportunity, though, to catch him with this drone. It just depends on how this timing works out.
Xset stalling, however, temporarily.
Super.
This is going to be Super rotating back up. He does have a rotate to work his way
No
through, but he's
way.
been watched by Diaz, so he's going to shut it down. 2 minutes of build-up for no payoff on Super's end. That's unfortunate, as now Xset take the advantage at a 5v4. Only 40 seconds remaining, though, so there's a chance this gets spun around, but these trades from Xset are just so darn quick. Gomez and Kino picking up 2 of the most recent kills, leaving Soniqs with only Kansan and Yeti to fight off the still strong 4-man presence from Xset here. Nitro from Yeti could yield some good results, especially with a big window hop potentially looming over these next few seconds. There goes the Nitro, unfortunately, far too early, but Kansan does have success in hopping back up from his position in the back corner. That position might be coming to an end fairly soon, and unfortunately, even further than that, he cannot stop the plant from happening. Yeti will get caught trying to rotate. It leaves just Kansan with a sliver of HP remaining, and Xset has no problem dealing with that. They're on a rampage right now at 4-0 over the Soniqs.
I think Bodega broke out some of the special sauce today for the Soniqs. I mean, this is looking very solid from their end, especially because Soniqs, I mean, they just can't do anything right now. It's going to be attack pause from them as well. The playbook just not working out right now. We had the adjustment inside of that last round as more of a passive play on the site with more of a late-game Roan-centric thing going on with Super. We saw the late flank come in from the Mozzie, but it was just read perfectly. I mean, Diaz on top of his game when it came to the drone and able to find the rotation before he comes up the stairwell and bags himself a free kill. Past that, I mean, the site setup for the Soniqs, it's just simply not working out, and that's because of the bans that we end up having. They have to take these gunfights, but they have to take a lot of these through utility or from positions that they're not really used to playing normally because they know those bans are in play.
And this is so strange as well, and it's so one-sided. This is Soniqs. I'm pretty sure this is their most played map, at least going off of like my personal recollection. It's definitely one that they seem to feel very comfortable on. I think you talked about it before we actually came on here. I think they played like 5 times at SI or something similar to that. So this is an area where you feel like the Soniqs should be able to hold their own on at least one of those 2 core sites, but so far it has just not been the case.
And not only that, but actually taking into account those 5 maps from SI, John, their best half, defense, 58% win rate. So now we're going into their offensive side, which all of us at home already know Oregon is a defensive map. It's just looking really, really risky right now. I think the big thing, again, to notate is these bans. We're going to be paying attention to these throughout the entirety of this. Like, it really should be tilting it more into the offensive favor, and it definitely is. But, I mean, for the Soniqs, you should at least have 1 round right now.
And I feel like earlier on, especially for the basement attacks, there's an argument to be made that, okay, like the Soniqs kind of put themselves into a corner here. We've got a very aggressive Volcon set up here to try and prevent the E-drop.
I love everything about it. You know what else I love, John? I love some blitz play. We're going to get that in, guys. If you guys didn't know what the solution was to your elbow player on Oregon, well, do we have the deal for you? John, would you like to tell us about our new car?
Yeah, we're going to bring in a blitz into the fold for Spirits here. And we already saw in an earlier match today just how useful this operator can actually be, especially if you're able to land the flash on the shield there. You can just waltz right up to the player that's normally playing behind the corner around that deployable shield and knock them right out without too much of an issue. So I believe Spirits is going to be looking to accomplish something pretty similar here.
You can fit so many smoke bodies inside of this damn thing, let me tell you. We'll have to see if it works out this time, as we'll be Super on the receiving end. At any moment, we could have an explosive play ring out from the Xset side. So drones now for them, just trying to make sure that all of this can go off swimmingly without having to deal with Blitz possibly running into some issues. And if you remember, we were talking about this a little bit earlier on when we actually watched this happen in the last Oregon. And I was talking about how the only counterplay, besides shooting someone in the head like Yeti did right there, for Blitz rushing through this is got to be the Banshees. But it doesn't seem like that's going to help all too much. The Spirits gets one, but finally he'll get taken down. But it's actually going to work itself out. Soniqs into the 3 versus 3, but unfortunately enough for them, they're lacking not only the MK14, but also Super and his Toxic Babes.
Yeah, kills end up going all over the place there as the members of Xset are able to sneak off another kill against Rexen over the course of that fight there. And yes, they lose their Blitz, and on top of that, Gomez gets picked off by the nice swing from Yeti. That only holds us at an even kill, though. 3v3 between both of these teams. Diaz, very careful hop there. He even knew the risk involved in it. You could tell as he was trying to be a little creative with the positioning. But that's also to get him into a spot here where he can use that Gone 6, as you guys just saw, taking out a nice piece of utility a little bit deeper into the site itself. And Yeti now going to be called to fall back due to the relative risk of an assault coming into the site at any moment here due to that position being maintained at the bottom of the back steps.
This is so unbelievably dangerous! Kino! What is that? Oh my! 1E, 1D. It marks everybody inside of Laundry, and they're dusted by the ARX.
The Soniqs are just stacked up and ready to be cooked, apparently, as some beautiful work is played in here. Kino walks right in, the door is wide open, and there was someone watching the position, but it just devolves so quickly that even if that player gets the calm out, there's no time to react. He's got that play in the palm of his hands, and he eats it right up.
There's 2 things to take out of that. Number 1, Soniqs, that positioning, so unbelievably poor. I really don't know what the overarching strategy was for that, and I mean, if we do get him in an interview, I would love to talk to them about that round, because it just doesn't really make sense to have everybody spaced like that. But I mean, either way, past that, I'm just going to say this to all of you at home that choose to argue against the ARX. That is why you play the ARX. He literally tagged each one of those people twice, and they all died. He's only got 20 bullets. Like, if you're trying to argue against the ARX, are we playing the same video game? I don't know what to say to you. Like, I've never understood this argument. But, I mean, hey, for Xset, there's no argument here. ARX takes it 9 times out of 10, and it's going to happen there yet again. So, for Xset, 5-0 up against the Soniqs on the offensive side. Soniqs might be regretting that Jaeger ban right now.
That was the point I was going to lean into. Is I feel like Soniqs are really starting to potentially question whether this Jaeger ban was a good idea, because I was kind of trying to take a look at it during the first few rounds. It hadn't become as big of an issue when they were going for the upstairs holds, but I think it's become a problem once again where they're almost like scared of potentially getting a nade dropped on them while it's been pre-cooked. They don't have any time to react to that. So I feel like in a lot of situations here, especially in their basement holds, they're just prematurely falling back and getting themselves out of any potential nade range here, and that's setting up these like very easy pushes for Xset, because it's just pushing the Soniqs into a corner. Xset just bullying them with nades because Soniqs, gave them that capability at the beginning of this game. It's very strange.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about it past that, because it's just one of those things where it's like you straight up just have to ask somebody, right? Like, there's no way we're going to sit here and be like, guys, this is exactly why they did this.
That's like my hypothesis on what's currently happening, but that'd be a great question if we get someone from Soniqs on an interview or something like that as well in the future to ask about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, just to ask what the heck is happening this stage. Remember, guys, this is the exact same team that we saw at SI. The same team that placed top 6 internationally is currently down 5-0 up against a brand new Xset. It just doesn't add up. But for Xset, they've definitely got to be happy about these results, but not these in particular, as Grixer swings wide. Spirits will win the engagement, and I mean, we're just going to continue this clown fiesta.
A bit of a Looney Tunes fight right there, but either way ends up in the favor of Xset. As Grixer unfortunately rotates a little bit too heavily there at a midpoint in the round, not assuming that Xset would have taken that much control just yet. So he goes down, and that's going to leave us into an Xset advantage once again.
Man, it's just so strange from Soniqs right now. So they're going to lose Grixer here. Kansan's inside of Garage, but also, now here's the big thing. This is a moment for Kansan to win an engagement like that because he is playing an off angle. But if the drone coverage is right, they know he probably rotated out an Xset. Oh my, and Rexen, no, my friend, no, not like this. Unfortunately enough for Rexen, he's not going to be able to get the refrag. They just don't swing in any really positive way. I mean, he's 0-5 at the moment, too. He's died every single round. He's got 1 assist, but, I mean, Soniqs are in shambles right now. Fortunately enough, Gomez is going to gift him a frag. Rexen's first one of the game, possibly the second, but no, he loses that engagement to a man dropping down a hatch. They pop one of the Goyos as Super's the last one alive, but he's got so much to do.
Some of these duels are pretty nutty. I will give Xset credit for that, but the Soniqs, their problem right now is inside of this round continuing to double, triple, quadruple down on the scenario, and it does not lend them any favors. Another round on the board from Xset, and now we're only one away from a perfect 7-0 as they absolutely destroy the first half here on Oregon.
Yeah, that 6-0 was sponsored by Brazil, let me tell you. Xset is taking it to the Soniqs right now. Not even in any sense of the term can you really say Soniqs had an opportunity. They had one opportunity in a singular round, and it all fell apart because nobody was holding the main stairs. It's just super, super unfortunate for them at the moment. Past that, in every facet of this game, Xset have had them beat. They've had them beat inside of the gunfights. They've had them beat inside of the utility usage. It's just so hard fought for Soniqs.
Even just like the mental game of like mid-round adjustments and things like that, the plays we're seeing from Xset are way, way better in terms of what's happening with them than anything we're seeing from the Soniqs. And I know that's kind of a given with the scoreline, but still. Normally there's a few close rounds to call back on where we could have some positive things to say about the losing team, but that's just not the case right now. Soniqs just continuing to blunder, unfortunately, every single round.
It really feels as though, for lack of a better term, it feels like Xset is playing chess and Soniqs are playing checkers. The one big adjustment that we saw was Super playing Mozzie, and then Super playing Mozzie on more of an extended roam for a flank.
Which didn't lead to anything,
exactly,
because members of Xset were already on flank watch by the time he made his play.
It just doesn't add up to me, especially from what we've come to know of this team inside of 2021. But 2022 is a new year. It's a new stage, and this is definitely a new look for the Soniqs. Let's see if Xset can get the clean sweep here.
Xset certainly looking to make a statement here today after a little bit of a rough go of it from week number 1. A 7-0 would certainly be a way to pop them off into the league, but we'll have to see if they can complete that task, as the Soniqs, now on the attacking side, are going to look to try and get a few rounds on the board at least, but they quite obviously have a massive task in front of them of trying to claim that same result that Xset had in the first half of 6 consecutive rounds in a row, and that only guarantees overtime. They drop any one of these 6, and that is it. The game is done, and Xset take all the points with it.
This is a super, super scary round for the Soniqs as well, because going into this, it's going to require so much mental in order to make this go off without a hitch. You're down 6 rounds, and you know that any little mistake that happens could be the end of this game. And obviously, Soniqs do not want to be bottom of the NAL. So this does mean a lot, even though the scoreline is 6-0 in favor of Xset at the moment. But just look at these crossfires that Xset have set up at the moment, especially Yaga's position here inside of Attic. This makes this trophy push so very difficult as he continues to hold this down, but you're going to have to come in from a multitude of different areas in order to have an effect over this.
All right, so let's get back into it here. Take a look at how exactly Soniqs will look to approach this assault, being very slow with it right now, and reason behind that is going to be a two-parter here. They have to be a little bit careful of the walk-in presence, mainly due to the fact that we also have the half-wall positioned right here, but a few other reasons as well. Battling for any type of positioning to get themselves in is going to be tough.
Can I just ask you this right now?
Yeah.
What is happening for the Soniqs in the moment? Right?
Not much.
Thank you.
That I
All
can
right.
see at
And
least.
this is what we're getting onto. It's 1 minute and 10 seconds. The Soniqs, they've been able to get some things done. They've got the attic open now, and they're going to be able to start pushing across here. But look, Spirits is still positioned down in Classroom. This is something that should be covered, and he's got a free kill onto Rexen. None of this should be happening right now to the Soniqs. Not a single damn thing. They have no coverage down low. They have somebody inside of this space, and yeah, it'll be able to be traded out. But Xset, they're still winning. Soniqs are trying to walk their way into sight. It's Kansan and Grixer to try and pick up the pieces, but now they know Grixer exists as well. Is he covered? Yes, he is, but Spirits is going to lose out the gunfight. That's Case back up for Soniqs.
40 seconds now to get this down onto the ground, and the remaining anchors are ready for the challenge inside of the site here. Not to mention the fact that we are actually going to be out of Toxic Waves. There is still 1 Volcan available, and that's not counting any that are still sitting on the ground. Remember how long these things last now. You probably heard it in the back of your headphones, all 2 of them exploding prior few seconds ago here. And yeah, look at this. Soniqs can't do anything about this. Grixer just has to sit here, wait out the flame. 20 seconds, I believe, is the time that these will be plumed for, so they should be expiring now. Kansan forced to just waltz right through his, and as they leap over the top, Grixer goes down immediately. Yaga is more than ready for that challenge. Kansan now sits alone, and he's not even going to get a chance. Shut down from an M590. Speaking of which, this game is shut down. Xset absolutely destroy the Soniqs with a 7-0 victory.
Well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
It's supposed to be a little closer, at least.
Do you have any analysis? Because my analysis is, Soniqs, you don't even look like yourselves. I don't know what to say. For Xset, that was a fantastic game. I love it, especially the way that they were able to manage the defensive bans. They made it look really, really good on offense, especially being able to land quite a few of their nades and make those hold space for them while they, attended to other tasks and stuff like that. And they played really well off each other on the offensive side. But for Soniqs, there's just not really a lot of positives.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Not really a lot of positives, especially for how well they placed at SI.
Yeah.
You expect more from a team like this, especially going up against a roster that's only been formed for a few months at best at this point. And aside from that, that leaves the question that you posed me right at the beginning of the segment here. What is going on with the Soniqs right now? Where is this, top 6, top 4 SI team that we saw just a few weeks ago battling against some of the best teams in the world that now can't even get around on their most played map? But either way, that'll do it for the two of us right now. We're going to go to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we do come back, we'll have your analysis desk ready to break all this down.
Levitate, going up, elevate. Watch me demonstrate. On time, never late. I grind, celebrate. No pump fake, hesitate. I've been scoring every day. Champagne Perrier. Since 9-3, been in the box, now I'm stepping up to home. Like straight out the sandlot, now I'm plotting on the globe. I work.
Hey, we're back real fast here at the R6 NAL. Doa, Jesse, Jacob here with you at the desk. And wow, I don't think I didn't expect I would be saying the word Xset 7.0, the sentence Xset 7.0 Soniqs today. But that is exactly what happened. And we've got Kino from Xset on with us from Vegas.
Hey.
How you doing, man? Welcome. Congrats on
Hello.
the win. I mean, yeah, it's a win. It's a 7-0 win. It was pretty dominating. What was it about the game today that finally helped the team push through and get the win?
I'll say after our 2 losses against TSM and SSG, we talked about our issues, what was going on. Everybody was a little nervous in the beginning. Gomez and Diaz never played on LAN before. So like everybody was kind of new to the environment. But I think today this is finally our true potential, you know? This is what we can do. This is Xset.
I want to talk about that potential a little bit because I believe it was on Super's stream a couple of weeks ago where he talked about a quote from you saying that you thought this team has more potential to go farther than the current Oxygen roster. Now, OXG aside, they're having a great start to the stage. Certainly it seems like you might have more potential than the current Soniqs roster. Do you still feel that that quote is true?
OXG honestly surprised me. I thought like having 2 roster moves, they're going to be like not as good as they are right now, but well, better than the Soniqs, maybe. I think the Soniqs are having a bad season. That's not the real Soniqs. That's not the Soniqs we know. I think they can do way better than that. But I think this is us, you know, like this is our true potential, and like I'm telling you guys, we're gonna do way better for the next games. This is just the start.
Kino, I remember back we had plenty of time when we were talking at the Six Invitational kind of about what this new journey, this new start was looking like for you. And obviously it took a little bit to get going, but from the foundational pieces that you brought over, we haven't had the chance to talk to you after a win so far. So kind of walk me through so far, like how team chemistry is all working together, what you think of the guys that are kind of brought onto this new squad. It might just be a rehash of some of the stuff that we talked about in Stockholm, but still, what are your opinions of how this team is working well together so far?
It's a team of friends. I can't lie, a team of friends. In the past, people say a team of friends don't work. It's not gonna happen. But we're here to make it happen. You know, we have so much chemistry because all of us played with each other in the past, and all of us have the skill and the mechanics skill to, you know, to be the best team. So
Yeah.
you put that like 1 and 2 together, and we have Bodega and Vivas as a staff. They're helping us a lot with strats, structure, discipline, whatever we need to learn. So you put the mechanics with the experience on the staff, then, you know, it's just a good roster in general.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, congrats on the win. It's got to feel good to get to 7-0 as well. I have
Appreciate
one
it.
last question before we let you go. What's the celebration dinner going to be tonight? What's the plan?
That's a good question. Probably some sushi. I'm feeling it.
Ooh.
I'm down
All
for
right.
that. It is Vegas. You've got options.
Yeah, you've got a lot of
no
good
kidding.
choices there. That's a good one though too. Well, congrats on the win. A great start. Looking forward to see more of that Xset victory stuff coming soon. Good luck on the match tomorrow.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for stopping by.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. Kino from Xset. Insane score line, by the way, today too. Just I know I'm getting ahead of myself in the stats, but holy cow, that was incredible, wasn't it?
I don't know what happened. What
Came alive.
chat? Anyone have any idea what just happened? So
We can't see it.
what we're looking at is Kino logging 15 kills over 7 rounds.
MVP right there. There's nobody else throughout the entire day that I think deserves the MVP as much as Kino. 15 and 2, 100 cost, perfect on the entry. I mean, he had some amazing plays. I do want to say that like this is I hope a good start for Xset, but it is against another team that is currently at the very bottom of the league. I want to see a little more from them, but we can't take away this performance from them. Even Spirits, I thought, had an amazing game, especially as a player that I think didn't have the greatest first week. To see him here fragging on the server now was amazing.
I mean, two players with 100% cost. Like, I feel like it's rare to see any players with that. You've got two. Is that more? I guess that's more common in a 7-0. You see another say that might be part of it, though.
For sure. I think, honestly, in
Yeah.
spite of what context you see it, the fact that it's there is still just like a remnant of the game that we saw that shouldn't exist but somehow does. And I think Xset definitely could probably 7-0 another team somewhere down the road, but the fact that it came against the Soniqs is the biggest shocker of this whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that Xset's been struggling so much on the attack, and that's the way they started out today. They had to start on attack, and they did great, right?
Everything was lining up for the Soniqs. Literally
in more
everything.
ways than one.
The map they went to, the site they started on, the knowledge that they were a good team that went a really far distance at the Six Invitational, and the opponent that they were playing had no kills. Soniqs, what's going on?
I mean, let's talk about things lining up for Xset, and they didn't line up that much better than you ever could see in round number 5, where Kino found 3 members of Soniqs just kind of chilling in a room, getting pinged, hanging out, dying. You know, let's check it out. Kino, this was one of his many kills today, but this 3K, this has to feel good in sort of a hilarious way.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably like 3v3. I had said in this round, like, Spirits went for the Blitz Rush, and it's like, okay, well, it's not that bad, you know? Like, you did trade out 2 for 2. You've got all this time. Watch Kino, the outline, though. They ping with the Lion, and then he's in. Nobody's looking this way, right? Tanzin's, like, a little worried about it, but he loses the gunfight because Kino immediately slams him with the headshot, then picks up the other 2. That ARX, Stokes talked about it, but oh my god, he's correct. Such a beast of a gun, and Kino used it perfectly.
I mean, you do have to stop in your tracks to not get scanned by an E1D. However, However, the fact that all three of them were scanned simultaneously meant that Kino just had to like worm his way in. You are concerned, at least to a degree, about spacing, especially when it comes to nades, or sometimes you might not be in a spot to trade. You might just lose 2 people who are looking the wrong way. Soniqs lose 3 people looking the wrong way, and it could have been anybody. It's not that it was Kino.
Right.
He was just there to pick up the pieces at that point.
And it's nice to see like all the pieces of the attack coming together. Like you saw the Blitz start that round off, and then you had the Lion coming in to get the pings, and then you had Kino walking forward to get the frags. It really does show like a coordinated, cohesive attack round being played out. After this game, Xset have quadrupled their total attacking wins in the NAL from 2 to 8. So that's got to feel good.
Yeah.
No kidding. All right. Well, honestly, there's not much more to say about that particular one. It was short and it was sweet for Xset. They get their first win with a 7-0 victory. Meanwhile, Soniqs fans, concern. We'll go back to that word again. Concern, as not only was it an 0-2 start, it was an 0-2 start now into being 7-0'd by Xset. Can't think of too much worse of a beginning, but we'll see if they can
know
pick it up
we're going to
again.
look at it later. I know we're going to. We're like, when we get a chance to look at standings later down the road. I'm just going to pull it up real quick just so we have an idea. The Soniqs, nothing down here in last place where they were already, so it's not like they had anything necessarily to drop. But Xset got 3 points. Mirage got 3 points. Parabellum have yet to play, so they could jump further up. And TSM, even in a loss, already had 3. So the only team to have not gotten a single point, not even forced into overtime, with only 4 rounds to their name, I don't even know what you do next if you're Soniqs.
Yeah, I mean, like, you talk about this team, right? 1 week is 1 week. Okay, whatever, not a big deal. But now coming into the second week, like, you can see a real pattern developing that is hugely worrying. And I've talked about how, like, on attack, I felt like maybe they weren't super coordinated. We talked about the pacing. Maybe it's IDL issues. Maybe it's, you know, something else with the team. On defense, it felt kind of individual. And I hate putting spotlights on players when they didn't have a great game. But Rexon had a really rough one today. He could not win a gunfight. His positioning was way out of whack. The very first round, he's like massively overextending in the basement and pillars. That trend continued on and on. Grixer also didn't fare a whole lot better. So these like key frag heavy players the Soniqs have relied on for over a year now, suddenly falling apart and just not being there mechanically, you can see how much it's affecting a team that historically hasn't had 5 fraggers on the team. They've had 3, maybe 4. Now they've got like 1 or 2.
I'll say one last thing about the Sonic squad.
Okay.
Usually, when it comes to major qualification, it's just top 4. A lot of people are like, hey, whoever's top 4, we're going to a major. Sweet, we've got it locked in. Soniqs have usually been that team. Now, they're in a position where, because they have no points through 3 games, they're not mathematically eliminated by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure.
But they are in a position where they can no longer solely rely on themselves doing well in order to crack into said top 4, because Astralis is on the move. OXG have yet to lose a game. Like SSG, despite a loss today, still have 6 points. The race for the top is going to be so incredibly contested at the top of the North American League, and the Soniqs right now do not fit into that picture. So based on their own merits, they will not make it to a major if they keep playing like this.
Well, we'll have to find out. They get to play again tomorrow, but you get to see our final matchup of the day. Coming up next, it's going to be Dark Zero taking on Parabellum. Dark Zero looking very strong. Parabellum looking to prove themselves even more in the league. We'll see if they can continue to do that as we get ready for our next series. Don't go anywhere. The Rainbow Six NAL comes back in just a few.